All right, everyone. Welcome to the Expat Women Show. My name is Naina Kaputi. I'm the founder and CEO of the Expat Woman and also the host of the Expat Woman Show. And every week I bring you a new guest, either an expert, influencer, or someone providing services to the expat community. And I'm delighted today to have Anne Maki join us for this very important conversation about accents and does your accent affect your sense of belonging. So, very quickly about me, the Expat Woman is a global platform for women who have moved abroad, are planning to
Not,
move abroad. Yeah, you can't hear me?
I'm hearing a double loop. I don't know if that's going live or it's only in my ears. Now I
Oh,
can hear you.
without the double loop, can you still hear the echo?
We're both
I can't,
repeating.
I can't hear the echo. So let me see if anyone has joined us live, and if maybe they can tell us in the let me see if there's if you've joined us live, let me know in the comments if
We're both
yeah.
repeating.
I can't hear the echo. So yeah, now I can hear that echo, right? Live, and if maybe they can tell us in the let me see if there's if you okay, let's try again.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, but whatever's yeah, I know no, yeah, they say Shana says no, you sound good, no echo. So that might be some issue with your
It's very hard to.
let me try putting on the maybe the let me see if I can put on the closed captions. I don't know if I can put on closed captions. Can you still can't hear me?
I hear you, and then you stop speaking, and then what you just said repeats over
Wow.
my.
Right. I don't know. I don't hear the echo, and Shana, who's just joined us in the comments, says she doesn't hear it. So, uh,
Okay.
yeah,
It's
I'm
going to be a
sorry.
challenge for me because as I speak, I'm constantly hearing other voice in my my earphones. I'll try. I'll do my best. This will be a
Oh,
cognitive challenge for me.
that, that's going to be interesting. But we're talking about accents, and now you're hearing voices. Anyway, so yeah, so I'll have you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what you do, and then we'll continue with the questions. Anne, can you hear me? Yeah.
I can. There is a delay, so I apologize if I don't seem to respond immediately. Okay, so my name is Ann Mackey, and I'm out of Wichita, Kansas. I have a background in medical speech language pathology, and I am an expert in accent modification or accent training to help people polish their accent, but not necessarily to get rid of their accent, just so we can improve speech clarity in the workplace and help people build their confidence and speak with ease. And I love doing that. I love people. I'm very empathetic, and I'm eager to help people to build their relationships and feel better connected.
Wonderful. And if you're joining us in the comments, let us know where you're calling in from. And if you've faced any issues with your accent and not feeling like you've been accepted or that you feel like you belong. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a backstory about
Nina,
yes,
I'm sorry, one more time. May I try taking out my earphones and see if that is the problem? Let me
absolutely.
just.
Let's go ahead and do that. You are can you unmute yourself? And let me know if you can hear
Okay.
me. Is the echo better now?
Now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. But can you hear me?
I
Put. Why don't you unplug your headphones from the?
I I did. I'm so sorry. I did unplug my headphones. It's still in my computer. It is looping. So I'm really struggling to not hear extra voices while I speak.
Oh, I see Shanti has
Crazy.
joined us. Shanti, can you? Hi, Shanti, joining us from Italy. Shanti, are you hearing the echo too? Let me know because Shana said she said she can hear a bit of an echo, but she hears it once. Shanti, let me know if you can hear an echo uh, in in the conversation. I'm just curious whether it's an issue with StreamYard or my computer or Anne's. Anne, can you hear me at all?
I can hear you, yes.
Mm.
And
Yeah. So Shana says she's a language learner with a decent accent. My challenge seems to be more related to the cadence rather than the accent. And Shana, yeah. So Shanti can't hear the echo. I don't know how we're going to do this because my audio.
may I ask, would it be possible to stop the live and restart it and see if that would
I would, what you could do is you could leave and come back in. If I stop it and leave, it will end my live stream. So
okay.
why don't you try on a different device? Or maybe, yes, even Shana says maybe refresh the connection. And
Okay,
so, because I think it's a issue with your computer. So just leave and maybe come
I'll
back
do
with this
that.
laptop or
I
another
will do
one.
that. My
Okay.
apologies. I'm not sure what is going on. It's so crazy, but I'll be right back.
Okay. And
Okay,
looks like, yeah.
seems
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
let me find my little button. I'll be right back.
All right, we are waiting for Anne to come back, and looks like both of us are frozen on the screen. So maybe today is not a lucky day for us in terms of this whole the expat show, but the show will go on. So in the meantime, maybe Shanti and Shana, if Shanti, so you live in Italy. Where are you from originally? Let me know in the comments. And have you faced any issues with this whole accent thing? Where you feel you stand out or you don't belong because you have an accent. And Shauna, let me know in the comments as well, if what you mean by my challenge seems to be more related to the cadence and the accent. Are you talking about uh, with when you speak or when someone else speaks, and where are you from originally from? And again, there's some, this whole, I'm having some issues with StreamYard as well. Okay, thankfully it's come back. So Shanti's, yeah, tech gremlins. Okay, so Shanti says she's half, okay, and Anne is back. Hopefully now things will work. So let's bring Anne back on stage. And how does it sound now?
It's still the same problem, but I'm going to press on. I don't want this
Okay.
to delay. I'm so sorry.
No worries. Okay, so let's continue with the conversation. So why don't you share how you got to where you are today? Why did you decide to become an accent coach?
Okay. So what happened was about close to 20 years ago, I was working as a speech pathologist in a medical setting, and I was asked to. Um, this is so crazy in my brain. I was asked to give a tour to my facility, my speech language pathology department, to a nurse who was from the Philippines. And as she came through and toured, she asked me at the end of the tour, would I mind if she asked a question? I said, no, that's great. And so she asked me if I could help her with her accent. And honestly, that was the first time I had ever even concerned myself or considered that someone might be struggling with their accent. And she told me that I said, "Your accent sounds beautiful. What is it that you are looking to change?" And she said, "You don't understand." She said, "I go to work, and for 9 years, I just try and hide out in the corner and not talk to anyone. I feel very isolated because when I speak, people don't understand me. And then when I try and repeat, um, they don't understand that change that I try and make, and then I spell it out, and they don't understand the letters that I'm spelling out." And she mentioned to me that specifically the letter H was a struggle for her. She pronounced it something more like "esh." And I said, "Well, you're a nurse, and so you're always taking interviews, medical interviews, histories of patients. Do you, um, ever use the word age? Like, what is your age?" She said, "Oh, yes, I do. I can say that just fine." And she did. And I was like, "Oh my gosh." Well, I know as a speech pathologist that the letter A or the sound of H and a J, that that sound is the same sound. the ch and j. It's just that one is all air, a ch, and one has voicing, a j. So I said, "Oh my gosh, sit down. Let's fix this in 5 minutes." And so we did. And it was her reaction to success with that that really touched my heart and just made my heart grow 3 sizes that day. She was so shocked that she said it correctly. Her eyes welled with tears, and she covered her mouth, and her face turned pink, and I thought she was gonna cry. She was, like, in shock, but so joyous that she made that change. So I thought, how many other people are struggling because they just don't know what to change to be clearer? And it does cause isolation. It does cause you to blame yourself sometimes if someone can't understand you, but it's completely fixable. So that's why I started my business to help people.
Very cool, very cool. I see a lot of amazing comments in the
Hey, Drew.
comment box. Yeah. So Shanti says accent is the same as pronunciation. She says the thing I like what Shanti just said. The thing about accent is that it's up to the listener to get used to it, not you to adjust to it. What can be done is to articulate better and slow down. And I know Anne has mentioned about slowing down and enunciating. And then Drew says that's common. Pick up the rhythm, stress, and intonation is most efficiently adopted through exposure therapy. The more of it you listen to, repeat, but most importantly, to hear your own voice, the better. So, and Anne, I know you're talking about accents from a US perspective, because you help people in the US, but I don't know if you can hear me, but what about if you went to another country with your American accent? Um, or I believe you have lived abroad for a while. Did you face any discrimination, or did you face people not being able to understand you, or you finding you have to, enunciate the words, or speak slower, or change the way you speak? Just curious if you've experienced this when you moved to another. I know you lived in another country for a while.
So yes, I personally did not, but my husband has lived in other countries, and I've traveled a lot, but I haven't lived in other countries or had any issues.
But when you traveled, was it too short a time for you to feel that maybe your accent was affecting how you interacted with people, or even with your, yeah, go ahead.
Mhm. So it wasn't very long, it was a 3-week period, and I didn't experience a lot of challenges with being understood, but I've worked with so many clients to know what their feelings are so often for that, when they're misunderstood, and, um, sometimes, people have different attitudes about, an impact, a different emotional impact on that. Some will, internalize that and feel like, feel insecure or that they're doing something wrong or whatever. And others do not feel that way. For the ones that do struggle to be understood, my passion is for helping them to modify just a little bit what they're saying. We don't need to eliminate the accent. Nobody needs to sound exactly like a native speaker, right? We love accents. We need to celebrate them. But sometimes it's just a slight tweaking of how they say what they say that makes all the difference. Intonation, as Drew mentioned, and others, plenty. Intonation is a big part of how we understand someone effectively or not with an accent. So we can modify just a few things in terms of we can slow down a little bit. We can pause and in between like phrases so that we can give the listener a chance for their brain to catch up if they couldn't understand us. It's something that they can, give some time to the listener to decide what was being said because in English, if you change a consonant or a vowel sound, very often you're going to hear a completely different word in English, coat and goat or leave and live or whatever. So we do need to just give that listener a chance to try and figure out what's going on. But slowing down a little bit, pausing between phrases, and also emphasizing with our word stress the main word in a small short phrase, like a noun, a verb, adjective, or adverb. You want to stress those important, meaningful words with your punctuate them with your voice, and that helps the listener's brain gather what the gist of what you're saying, even if they're not understanding every word. And if I may say, there was a comment, it might have been Shanti. I'm trying to look really quickly in here. Um, but we do have to understand that accents are, ac- I think she said accents and pronunciation are not the same thing. And that's true, but pronunciation is a component of accent, as is intonation and all the pausing and phrasing and the other things that we do. The rhythm that we use is part of an accent. So there are multiple factors in someone's accent, and it's good to have someone give feedback as to what is the problem, what is the deciding factor that makes someone's accent hard to understand. The other thing to do, by the way, is to teach native speakers and other accenters how to better understand accents. And that way we come together and we meet in the middle, because if someone has a heavy accent and the listener's brain is hardwired to hear the expected rhythms and speech sounds of that language, and so we're just not really connecting, we need to maybe on both sides come together and modify a little bit to come together and understand and show respect and inclusion from each side.
I thank you so much, Anne. I like what Shanti's been touching upon this a lot, and I think a LinkedIn user, they talk about the. You can look at the comment here, Anne, and look at the comments where
Yes.
people are talking about the hierarchy of accents, and I so agree. I grew up speaking English. In fact, my great grandparents adopted English as their first language in India, just because my grandfather worked with the British, and my family was Catholic, so they went to Irish and British schools. And so speaking an Indian language was, again, you can see even in India, colony, which was a British colony there, speaking an Indian language was looked down upon. And so they adopted English as their first language because it was considered that if you speak an Indian language, you're not Christian enough or not Catholic enough. And so, but the interesting thing was, I grew up speaking English. I always was the best in my class when it came to English language, grammar. I was considered very articulate, very eloquent. And then I came to the US, and some of you might have heard this story. One of the first jobs I applied for in the US, I didn't get hired because a woman didn't like my accent. She just felt, and this was San Francisco, which is supposed to be a fairly big melting pot of cultures. And it came as a real shock to me because I was always hired or selected. I was in marketing in India as well before I came here because of people liked how I spoke English and my accent, and suddenly to be discriminated against with some, it was a really piddly job. It wasn't even a big deal. I was way overqualified for it. But to be discriminated against because of my accent really affected me. And that's why I wanted to come to Shanti's point and the other person who shared that uh, you know uh, there is a hierarchy for accents, and there is this huge push to get people to speak with an American accent, or as Shanti said, maybe a British accent. And I think we really need to change the narrative, and maybe training needs to be given to companies, employees in companies, hiring managers, recruiters, investors, and the educational institutions, for them to learn how to accept and understand accent, because the US is such a global country. And I'm talking about the US because I live in the US, but I think all over the world with remote work, hybrid work, with us getting more globalized, I think more training needs to be done when English is the language of communication, to people who are working with global audiences, for them to be able to follow different accents, because again, the expat woman is very global. If Anne or anyone who lives in the US came to India, you would be considered to have an accent, an American accent, right? Or if you if or maybe some, if I went to another country besides the US, maybe I went to Spain, and maybe in Spain, if they speak English, they speak with a Spanish accent, right? So it's just because, and English is spoken in so many countries right now, and of course, I'm not even talking about other languages like Italian or French or Spanish or Hindi. I mean, even those, people who speak Hindi in the US might have a different accent than how Hindi is spoken among Indians in India, right? So yeah. Shanti, no, Shanti says no one would have dared turn you down because of your race or gender. I mean, Shanti, that's still happening. People are getting turned down because of their race or gender. But you're right. It was the accent, the race or gender. They would have been discriminated against. And hopefully you can hear me. But my question to you is, what can be done by, just based on what I shared, instead of training people to sound more American, what can be done to train employers at companies, educational institutions, so they can train locals to learn how to understand different accents, and also to change this bias against accents? Yeah, and there's a lag, so Anne's listening.
Okay. I wish you guys could hear what's going on in my head. It's like 8 people are talking. No, it's overlapping so crazy. So this is such an important topic, and I would love to have a follow-on. I don't know, maybe I could meet with people to have a deep conversation about this because it's so important. And I'm completely hearing what Shanti's saying, and I know that this is a real issue out there sometimes. Let me just share that, and I hope I heard your question well with all the voices overlapping in my head from this audio. Um, so I feel like two things can happen. Well, I think education is the answer to everything, actually, in this situation. But in the workplace, if someone is being interviewed and they have an accent, I want to share we do assume that there is discrimination. I don't deny that there is some discrimination out there, but I would like for people to maybe dig deeper and see if it's truly discrimination, or if someone doesn't get the job or something doesn't work out for them, someone with an accent, because their communication, verbal communication, was not easy to understand. And so it just needs polish. It's a clarity issue because some jobs do. I think you mentioned, if I heard you, like when jobs are outsourced overseas and we're trying to understand someone over the phone, so we don't even have the visual input to help with clarity. If someone is outsourced to another job and their accent is not clear, an employer may not be able to employ certain people because the customer truly, no bias against the individual, their ethnicity, their race, none of that, no bias against that, but purely the brain is pre-programmed, hardwired to expect certain patterns to help us understand. And when the accent that we hear is extremely different from what is hardwired in our expectations, we struggle to understand that. So it may not be pure discrimination, but it could be. I'm not denying that, but I'm just saying let's dig deeper and see if in fact it's an intonation issue where the rhythm is completely different, the rhythm or the intonation or the speech sounds are substituted so that the comprehension is just not there. That could be the reason, rather than discriminating against the individual or the country that they're from or anything like that. So, yeah, and so what can we do? What we can do is educate. Employers, corporations can be educated about, obviously, inclusion and, valuing the individual, who they are and their contribution to this new position. And we can celebrate their accents, celebrate the diversity that they're bringing, and all the world experiences to bring to our team. We love this, really. We should be. And I think employers are doing that in large part, working toward that. Um, and then to help the employer, let's say they want to bring someone on, but their accent is a little bit heavy. The employer could, facilitate and, accent training a little bit just to polish, we're not getting rid of the accent. We just want to make them clearer, but also teach their employees how to better understand accents, right? Because there are predictable patterns that we can work on to improve the listener's ability to understand an accent. So I hope that kind of covers that issue of some things that we can do. And most of all, respect and love everyone. That's core, that's underneath it all.
Great. No, thank you. Thanks for answering that. The comments are really buzzing. You should read the comments. It's great. I love, we have a lot of people joining us. Drew, Jane, Shana, Shanti, Naveen, Sylvia, and they're it's just interesting reading the comments. This you can see how hot this topic is, and I love what Shana said. You should read that, and if you scroll down, yeah. But yeah, I wanted to. Shanti said, about I think you mentioned, Shanti, that if it was gender, race, then they wouldn't have been so explicit. But even now in the U.S., if you discriminate against someone because of their accent, I mean, even then, if I had taken that woman to court, I could have sued her because you cannot discriminate against someone based on their accent. Uh, so it hasn't changed. It's just that, first of all, I wasn't totally aware of it, and secondly, I don't think I would have wasted my time. It would have been good because I've taught her a lesson, and now I know that there are, especially when people are looking for jobs, there's all kinds of software being used to change the voice of the person sometimes in an interview, so there's no bias. There's so much bias still happening, and again, it's happening against people from certain countries, not all countries. And then I think also, I think Jane mentioned that even within a country, there's bias against people from accents from different parts of the country. I mean, even in India, if you speak, we have so many different languages, but with English, even English in the cities, people have a certain accent. People who learn English in other parts of the country might not speak English with the same accent, and even there you can say, oh, that one from this part of India, this one from that part, and even there's discrimination. And of course, I know in the US, people in the South have a different accent. We could go on talking about accents forever. I just love the comments, and I think we need to have another discussion. Hopefully this time next time the audio will be better, so Anne can, because I feel sorry for her listening to all these voices.
So
But
I look like I'm disconnected because
well, you
this is so crazy. I literally have like 7 voices rolling over top of my head.
I have no
Anyway,
idea. Yeah,
this is a cognitive challenge right here.
and I like to keep it to 30 minutes, so I'm going to end it shortly. But what I'm going to encourage you and everyone is to continue the conversation in the comments, because there's so many comments happening. So we can continue with that. But for now, I'd love for you to share one key takeaway or one tip that people can implement to help them feel that sense of belonging despite their accent, and be able to speak up and show up in whatever situation they would like to. And then also, how can people find you and connect with you?
I'm gonna let it catch up. Okay. All right. Now I can speak. So the takeaway that I would like to give everyone is to love your accent. Don't tell yourself that people are going to don't tell yourself that people are going to judge and discriminate against you because of your accent. It may happen, but try and set yourself up for positivity and what you can bring to the world with your accent. The majority of people, at least in my world, love accents and love what someone who's traveled the world and lived the world brings in terms of just a richness and a beauty to our workplaces. So be cautious of what you tell yourself. If we always assume we'll be discriminated against, I have to question whether that's what the universe will bring you, right? If you believe that you will overcome this and push through that and be loved and admired and respected and included, I think there's a factor that comes to play from the universe to serve you in that way. So love your accent. Understand that absolutely everyone has an accent and no one has to speak exactly like a native speaker. That's that's not the issue. It's whether we can clearly understand each other. That's what we want. And as far as having a conversation with me, I'd love to have one without 8 voices in my head rolling around. I would love to visit with you, but if you want just a little kind of a tip sheet I do on my website, you're welcome to go and download a free thing. It's called I can't hardly think with this going on in my ears. It's called the Speed Accent Guide in 7 Easy Steps. It's just some guides. I'm not trying to get you to get rid of your accent. I'm just saying for those of you who do wish to polish your accent, this is a guide. And I use the word American only to differentiate me from a British coach, trainer, or whatever. So I'm not trying to make everyone sound American, right? But I do offer that to you for free. And then you can follow on, and there'll be another invitation there for you to have a one on one with me for free. And so we could just identify whether or whether not your accent could be a component in where you struggle to be understood or hired or whatever in your life. And I could identify 2 or 3 things that maybe I could give you some tips and pointers on for free that would help you in that way. But this is such a big conversation and so much more to say. I do apologize that I'm in such a delay loop and have a looping audio that is distracting me from the true questions. I'd love to try again someday.
No,
I'm
no
so
worries.
honored, so honored that you invited me, Nina. Thank you so very much. You're very gracious, and I love your heart. It matches with mine in that we need to love each other and ease this journey that we're, this is where we're at.
Yeah, it's like, no, thanks so much. I'm sorry. It's just so weird that the day this conversation and accents leads to you having all these voices in your head.
Audio, yeah, that's so, oh, the universe.
That's, that's so funny, but I just, yeah, no, thank you, and I appreciate that. And I know it was really hard, but you were still able to answer the questions. And I just loved all the engagement in the audience. I host the Expat Woman Show every Tuesday, and some topics get more engagement than the others. I knew this topic would get a lot of engagement because Anne was actually one of the guests at the Expat Woman Summit. She was very engaged in the in our Facebook group. She joined a couple of virtual networking events, and I believe at one of them, we somehow the conversation moved to accents. And I was so impressed with what Anne had to say and share, and also that brought on so much engagement. As soon as we kind of pivoted into the topic on accents, and so this was very short notice. I hadn't filled in the spot for this week for my Expat Women show because I've been so busy with the summit. And I reached out. I posted in the summit Facebook group who would like to be on this LinkedIn live show, the Expat Women show, and Anne and a couple of other people were interested. But finally, it was just Anne, and I was really excited because I think, as you can see from the comments here, from our conversation, and as Shanti said, it's the elephant in the room, and I think it's something that all of us need to kind of advocate for, especially for people who move to another country and have a different accent, because I really think it does affect their sense of belonging, their self-confidence. And also they do, whether it's the bias is unconscious, or whether they are openly discriminated against. So I know for younger people they can be ridiculed because of their accent. We need to change how accents are perceived. I hope we can come back again. Maybe we'll do a LinkedIn audio event, and so we can bring people on stage, or a Zoom conversation, because I do want to continue this conversation. And hopefully the people joining us in the audience can join us as well, because you guys have all shared so many interesting comments. As I said before, let's continue the conversation in the comments, because I know Anne was busy too with responding to my comments, listening to those 7 or 8 different voices in her head, so she couldn't So let's continue the conversation on our LinkedIn page or on our YouTube channel. It's also streaming in our Facebook groups. But thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you, Anne. And next week on the Expat Woman Show, I will have Sindhu Chana. She is one of the founding members of the Expat Woman, my membership. She was a sponsor for the Expat Woman Summit, and she's a career matchmaker. She places job seekers all over the world with jobs that they are trained for, that they're qualified for. So it's going to be an interesting conversation on how she is a career matchmaker and how she helps people across the globe find the right jobs and how she matches them. All right. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.